When a brilliant black CEO is denied her first-class seat, she doesn't just demand justice. She orchestrates a corporate takeover that transforms an airline's culture and puts her in control of the very system that tried to exclude her. The morning sun streams through the large windows of the bustling airport terminal as travelers rush about, some looking anxious, others tired. Announcements echo overhead, creating a cacophony of sounds that blend into the background of airport life. Among the crowd walks Maya Johnson, a 45-year-old impeccably dressed black woman in a tailored navy blue suit that speaks of success and attention to detail. Carrying a sleek leather briefcase and pulling a small luxury carry-on, she moves with purpose and confidence through the terminal, occasionally checking her Rolex watch. Her hair is styled in a sophisticated updo, and her posture reveals years of commanding boardrooms. Maya approaches Gate 24, where boarding has begun for a flight to Chicago. A small line is formed for first-class boarding, mostly consisting of older white men in business attire and a few wealthy-looking couples. Maya takes her place in line, scrolling through important emails on her phone while she waits. As CEO of Johnson International Technologies, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in America, her time is precious, and these minutes before boarding are valuable opportunities to handle urgent matters. Welcome aboard, sir. Welcome aboard, ma'am. First class is to your right once you board, the gate agent says cheerfully to the passengers ahead of Maya. The agent, a white woman in her 30s named Sarah, processes each first-class passenger with practiced efficiency and a warm smile. When Maya steps up and presents her boarding pass on her phone, Sarah's smile falters momentarily as she glances at it, then up at Maya. Something in her expression shifts subtly. "I'm sorry, Mom," Sarah says, her tone noticeably cooler than it had been with previous passengers. "But first class has already boarded. We're now boarding Group 2. You'll need to wait until your group is called." Maya frowns, confused, as she was clearly standing in the first-class line, and her digital boarding pass clearly displays first class, along with her seat assignment, 2A. "There must be some mistake," Maya responds calmly, turning her phone screen toward the gate agent. "I'm in first class, seat 2A, and as you can see, there are still people boarding in the first-class line behind me." Sarah barely glances at the phone before shaking her head. "I'm sorry, but you'll need to step aside and wait for your proper boarding group," Sarah insists, louder now, drawing attention from nearby passengers. "We have procedures that need to be followed." Maya notices that Sarah is now avoiding eye contact, instead looking past her to the next person in line, a middle-aged white man who appears confused by the holdup. Maya takes a deep breath, centering herself as she's had to do countless times throughout her career when faced with prejudice. She's experienced this before. The assumption that she couldn't possibly belong in first class, couldn't possibly be a CEO, couldn't possibly have earned her success. With practiced patience, she pulls out her company ID along with her boarding pass. "I understand procedures," Maya says firmly but professionally, "and the procedure is that first-class passengers board first. As you can see from my boarding pass, I am in first class. I would appreciate being allowed to board with my group." Several nearby passengers have begun to watch the interaction, some with discomfort, others with curiosity. A few have their phones out, sensing that something newsworthy might be unfolding. Sarah's face flushes as she glances briefly at Maya's company ID, which clearly identifies her as Maya Johnson, CEO. Instead of acknowledging her mistake, Sarah doubles down. "Man, if you continue to be disruptive, I'll need to call security." The threat hangs in the air, heavy and laden with implications that both women understand. "Disruptive," Maya repeats, her voice steady, but with an edge that comes from years of navigating these situations. "I'm simply trying to board my flight in the class I paid for. Is there a manager available who can assist us?" Sarah's jaw tightens as she reaches for her radio, but before she can call for backup, the man behind Maya in line steps forward. "Excuse me," he says, "but I couldn't help overhearing. This woman is clearly a first-class passenger, just like me. I don't understand why there's an issue. The man, David Greenfield, a technology investor Maya has actually met at several conferences, offers a small nod of recognition to her before turning back to Sarah with raised eyebrows. Sarah hesitates, looking between David and Maya, her confidence wavering. "Sir, I'm handling this situation according to company policy," she says, but her voice lacks conviction now. David shakes his head, pulling out his phone and beginning to record. "What policy exactly?" he asks. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're refusing to let this woman board in first class, despite her having a first-class ticket. I'd be interested to know what policy justifies that." Maya reaches into her briefcase and pulls out her phone, her fingers moving swiftly across the screen. "While we're discussing policies," she says calmly, "I think it's time I made a call." She dials a number from her favorites list, putting the phone on speaker as the gathered crowd watches in curious silence. After 2 rings, a male voice answers. "Richard Anderson speaking," comes the crisp response. The gate agent's eyes widen slightly at the name, recognizable as the CEO of the entire airline. "Richard, it's Maya Johnson," she says, her voice clear and measured. "I appear to be having an issue boarding one of your flights in Chicago. Your gate agent seems to believe that I don't belong in first class, despite my boarding pass clearly stating otherwise. I was hoping you might help clarify your company's policy on who is allowed to sit in the seats they purchased." The silence on the other end lasts only a moment before Richard's voice returns, now with an edge of concern. "Maya, I'm so sorry to hear this. This is absolutely not our policy. Can you put the gate agent on the phone, please?" Maya offers her phone to Sarah, whose face has drained of color. Sarah takes the phone with a trembling hand. "Hello, this is Sarah Miller at Gate 24, she says. What follows is a one-sided conversation consisting mostly of "yes, sir," and "I understand, sir," from Sarah, whose professional demeanor crumbles with each passing second. The gathered crowd has grown, with several passengers openly recording the interaction on their phones. When Sarah hands the phone back to Maya, her expression is one of pure mortification. "Ms. Johnson, I sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding," she stammers. "Please board at your convenience. Again, I'm very sorry for any inconvenience." But Maya isn't finished yet. The aftermath section of Black CEO Denied Boarding First Class serves as a crucial turning point in the narrative, transforming what could have remained an isolated incident of discrimination into a catalyst for systemic change. This section bridges the confrontation at the airport with the ultimate corporate reckoning that follows, showcasing how Maya Johnson strategically leverages her position, resources, and the power of public opinion to create meaningful impact. Let me break down the key elements and expand on this pivotal section of the story. The viral explosion. The morning after the incident, Maya's experience has transcended from a personal affront to a national conversation. In today's digital landscape, incidents of racial discrimination no longer remain isolated or easily dismissed. Multiple passengers at Gate 24 had captured the confrontation on their smartphones, some beginning to record when they noticed the tension between Maya and the gate agent, others starting their videos when they realized the significance of Maya's phone call to the airline CEO. These videos, varying in length and angle, but all capturing the essential truth of what transpired, began circulating on social media platforms within hours. By sunrise, the hashtags #CEOs While Black and #First Class While Black have gained tremendous traction across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The airline's name is trending alongside these hashtags, creating a perfect storm of negative publicity that no corporate communications team could possibly contain. The raw footage shows Maya's composed professionalism juxtaposed against the gate agent's increasingly flustered demeanor, particularly after realizing who was on the other end of Maya's phone call. These unfiltered moments of realization, when power dynamics suddenly reversed, resonated deeply with viewers who had experienced similar microaggressions without having the resources to address them so effectively. Major news networks, which initially picked up the story from social media, have begun reaching out to Maya's office for exclusive interviews. Morning shows are discussing the incident, with panels of experts debating whether this represents an isolated incident or reveals a deeper pattern of systemic bias in the airline industry. Commentators are analyzing everything from Maya's composed response to the airline's immediate handling of the situation, with many drawing connections to other high-profile incidents of racial profiling in commercial spaces. Maya's strategic response. In her spacious corner office on the 48th floor of the Johnson International Technologies headquarters, Maya sits at her desk of polished mahogany, reviewing press statements with her PR team. The office reflects her success. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the Chicago skyline, minimalist but expensive furniture, and walls adorned with awards and recognition from the technology industry. Despite having slept little the night before, Maya appears perfectly composed in a burgundy suit, her posture straight, her expression focused. Since early morning, her executive assistant has been filtering calls and messages, prioritizing those requiring Maya's immediate attention. Her phone buzzes constantly with notifications from various platforms, where the video continues to gain traction. The incident has struck a nerve precisely because it illustrates the persistent reality that even the most successful Black professionals continue to face prejudice and assumptions about where they belong. The statement needs to be firm but forward-looking. Maya tells Aisha Williams, her director of public relations, a sharp-minded woman in her 30s who has been with the company for 5 years. We're not playing the victim here. We're highlighting a systemic issue and proposing concrete solutions. Aisha nods, making notes on her tablet. We've already received calls from the National Urban League, the NAACP, and 3 major news networks requesting interviews. The airline stock dropped 4% at opening bell, and their social media accounts are being flooded with demands for accountability. Maya reviews the draft statement on her screen, making small adjustments to the wording. The statement looks good, she says after a thoughtful pause. But I want to emphasize that this isn't just about me. This happens to Black professionals every day, usually without the benefit of having the CEO's direct line. She taps her perfectly manicured fingernail on the desk thoughtfully. This is an opportunity to push for real change, not just an apology. She understands that her position gives her a platform and power that most victims of discrimination don't have. From the beginning of her career, Maya has been acutely aware of how her actions would be perceived, knowing that as one of the few Black women in tech leadership, she carries the weight of representation with every decision. This awareness has made her strategic, measured, and exceptionally prepared, qualities that served her well during yesterday's confrontation and are guiding her response now. The broader impact. As Maya and Aisha finalize the statement, they discuss the hundreds of messages that have flooded in since the video went viral. Many are from Black professionals sharing similar experiences. The attorney asked to prove she was really staying in the hotel's presidential suite. The surgeon mistaken for janitorial staff in his own hospital. The finance executive handed the coat check ticket at his firm's gala dinner. These stories range from subtle slights to blatant discrimination, but all share the common thread of assumption and exclusion based on race. We need to incorporate some of these testimonials into our press conference, Maya decides. With permission, of course. This isn't just about one incident. It's about a pattern that needs to be acknowledged and addressed. Aisha agrees, already thinking about how to structure these accounts for maximum impact. We should also highlight the economic impact of discrimination. Johnson International Technologies refuses to partner with companies that don't demonstrate a genuine commitment to diversity and inclusion. That's billions in potential business relationships at stake. Maya nods, appreciating Aisha's strategic thinking. This is precisely why she had hired her. Aisha understands that social justice and business interests aren't mutually exclusive. For companies to truly change, they must recognize that discrimination isn't just morally wrong. It's bad business. Diverse companies consistently outperform their more homogeneous competitors, a fact Maya has emphasized in countless speeches and interviews throughout her career. The unexpected support. What neither Maya nor her team anticipated was the groundswell of support from unexpected allies. Since early morning, her office has received calls from white executives across various industries, many of whom Maya knows from business circles, expressing outrage at her treatment and offering to stand with her publicly. Several have shared stories of witnessing similar treatment of their black colleagues and feeling uncertain about how to effectively intervene. "I think we have an opportunity here to create a framework for allyship," says Marcus Chen, Maya's chief diversity officer, who joined the meeting midway through. "Many well-intentioned people freeze in these situations because they're afraid of making things worse. We could develop guidelines for effective intervention." Maya considers this thoughtfully. "That's excellent, Marcus. Let's develop that as part of our broader initiative. And let's reach out to David Greenfield to thank him for speaking up at the gate. His willingness to use his privilege in that moment made a difference." The support extends beyond individuals. Several major corporations that work with the airline have reached out privately to Maya, expressing concern about the incident and asking how they should respond. These companies, increasingly aware of the reputational risks associated with partnering with organizations perceived as tolerating discrimination, are seeking guidance on how to leverage their business relationships to encourage meaningful change. The legal strategy. In a conference room adjacent to Maya's office, a team of lawyers from Johnson International Technologies legal department is meeting with representatives from a prominent civil rights law firm. On the table before them are dozens of printed emails and transcribed phone messages, all from individuals claiming to have experienced similar discrimination on the same airline. "We have enough testimonials to establish a pattern of practice," explains Jerome Washington, the company's chief legal counsel, "but we need to verify each account and determine which would make the strongest case if we proceed with legal action." The legal team is not just preparing for a potential lawsuit. They're developing a comprehensive strategy that includes regulatory complaints, shareholder actions, and potential complaints to federal transportation authorities. They understand that the threat of litigation is often more effective than litigation itself in motivating corporate change. What makes this case particularly strong is the irrefutable video evidence combined with the airline CEO's immediate acknowledgement of wrongdoing during the phone call, which was overheard by multiple witnesses. The airline's vulnerability, both legally and in terms of public relations, creates leverage that Maya intends to use strategically. The pivotal meeting. As if on cue, Maya's assistant knocks and enters the office. "Ms. Johnson, Richard Anderson is here to see you. He's brought his entire executive team." The airline CEO has requested this meeting, understanding that getting ahead of the crisis is crucial for his company's reputation and financial stability. Maya nods, standing to adjust her suit jacket. "Send them in and have legal join us as well." She exchanges a meaningful glance with Aisha, who understands immediately what this means. This meeting isn't just about an apology. It's about restructuring training protocols, implementing bias recognition programs, and establishing consequences for discriminatory behavior throughout the airline. As she prepares to meet with the airline executives, Maya reflects on the journey that brought her to this moment. The daughter of public school teachers who emphasized education as the path to opportunity, she had worked her way through college and business school, often as the only black woman in her classes. She had founded Johnson International Technologies 15 years ago, building it from a small startup to a major player in the tech industry, specializing in artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions for enterprise clients. Throughout her career, Maya had encountered countless microaggressions and instances of bias, learning to navigate them with strategic precision rather than reactive emotion. She had developed a reputation for addressing discrimination not through public confrontation, but through systematic change, using her growing influence to create opportunities for other underrepresented professionals and to establish diversity requirements in her company's vendor and partnership agreements. Now, standing in her office preparing to meet with the airline executives, Maya understands that this incident, painful as it was, presents an unprecedented opportunity to effect change at an institutional level. The airline's vulnerability, combined with her company's technological expertise and the court of public opinion, creates the perfect conditions for transformative action. The transformation begins as Maya's assistant shows Richard Anderson and his executive team into the conference room. Maya takes a deep breath, centering herself for the negotiation ahead. She knows exactly what she wants from this meeting, not just an apology or compensation, but a comprehensive partnership that will fundamentally transform how the airline addresses bias at every level of its operations. Johnson International Technologies specializes in AI-driven solutions that can identify patterns in data. Maya's team has already begun developing a concept for a system that would analyze customer service interactions, flagging potential bias and providing real-time coaching to employees. This technology, combined with comprehensive training programs and clear accountability measures, could revolutionize not just this airline but potentially the entire industry's approach to equitable service. As she walks into the conference room to meet Richard Anderson, Maya carries with her not just the weight of her personal experience, but the responsibility of representing countless others who have faced similar discrimination without the resources to address it. She is determined that this incident will lead to meaningful change, not just a public relations statement or a one-time diversity training, but a fundamental restructuring of how the airline identifies and eliminates bias throughout its operations. This afternoon's meeting will set the stage for the transformation detailed in Part 5 of the story, where Maya doesn't just receive an apology from the airline. She effectively takes control of its approach to customer service and inclusion, turning a moment of discrimination into a catalyst for systemic change. Maya's boardroom at Johnson International Technologies stands as a physical manifestation of her power and success. The space itself communicates authority with its commanding floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Chicago's skyline, an imposing walnut conference table polished to a mirror shine, and state-of-the-art presentation screens mounted on every wall. The room was designed specifically to impress and slightly intimidate, combining modern technology with classic elements of corporate power. The morning light streams through the windows, casting the room in a golden glow that contrasts with the tension permeating the air. Maya has strategically arranged the seating, placing herself at the head of the table flanked by her legal counsel, a team of sharp-minded attorneys from diverse backgrounds who have built careers challenging corporate discrimination. Also present are her executive staff, her Chief Operating Officer, Chief Technology Officer, and Chief Diversity Officer, each bringing specialized knowledge to the impending negotiation. Their presence sends a clear message. This meeting involves the full weight of Johnson International Technologies' corporate power structure. Across from this impressive lineup sits Richard Anderson and his airline's executive team, visibly uncomfortable in what they recognize as hostile territory. Despite their own considerable corporate status, they appear diminished in this setting, seated as petitioners rather than equals. Richard himself, typically commanding and authoritative in his own corporate headquarters, seems smaller somehow, his normally confident demeanor replaced by careful politeness. His team includes the airline's general counsel, Chief Operating Officer, VP of Customer Experience, and Head of Public Relations, all of whom understand the gravity of their situation and the potential ramifications for their company's reputation and financial standing. "Thank you for coming," Maya begins, her voice steady and authoritative. She doesn't smile, but her tone remains professional rather than accusatory. She's dressed impeccably in a tailored crimson suit that stands out vividly against the neutral tones of the boardroom, a deliberate choice that ensures all eyes remain on her. As I mentioned on the phone, this meeting isn't just about what happened to me. It's about ensuring it doesn't happen to anyone else. There's a controlled power in how she addresses them, not as adversaries, but as business associates with a problem to solve, though the power dynamics are unmistakable. With a subtle nod to her assistant, the room darkens slightly as the presentation screens illuminate simultaneously. Maya gestures to one of her staff, who brings up a series of meticulously prepared slides on the screens. The first shows statistical data about racial discrimination in the travel industry. numbers highlighted in red showing the disproportionate rate at which Black travelers report negative experiences. The next slides display testimonials that have flooded in since her experience went viral, each representing a different person's encounter with prejudice while traveling. The final section presents a detailed, multi-phase plan for how the airline can address systemic bias through technological solutions, training protocols, and accountability measures. The presentation is comprehensive and undeniable, combining emotional impact with hard data in a way that makes it impossible to dismiss the issue as isolated or anecdotal. Maya allows the executives a moment to absorb the information before continuing, understanding that the visual impact reinforces her position of strength in this negotiation. Richard clears his throat, adjusting his tie nervously before speaking. Maya, first, I want to personally apologize again for what happened. It was unacceptable, and the employee in question has been terminated effective immediately. His voice carries the practiced sincerity of a CEO accustomed to damage control, but there's genuine discomfort behind his words. We've already issued a public statement condemning the incident and have scheduled company-wide sensitivity training to begin next week. Before he can continue listing the stopgap measures his team has implemented, Maya raises her hand in a gesture that immediately silences him, a testament to the authority she commands even over the CEO of a major airline. Firing one employee doesn't solve the problem, Richard, she says firmly, leaning forward slightly. This is about culture, training, and accountability at every level. And to be clear, this meeting is happening because I have the privilege of position and power. Most people who experience this treatment have no recourse. Her words hang in the air, a reminder that for every Maya Johnson with direct access to corporate leadership, thousands of others suffer similar indignities without the ability to demand accountability. With deliberate movements, she slides a leather portfolio across the table toward Richard. Inside is a comprehensive document outlining Johnson International Technology's proposal for addressing discrimination at the airline. This is our proposal for how your airline can make meaningful changes, she states, watching as Richard opens the portfolio and begins scanning its contents, his expression growing increasingly concerned as he realizes the scope of what she's proposing. Richard looks down at the document, then back up at Maya, understanding dawning in his eyes that this meeting is far more significant than the apology and minor concessions he had come prepared to offer. I understand, he says after a moment of weighted silence. And you're right. We need systematic change. What are you proposing exactly? Maya's response reveals the full extent of her strategic thinking. She hasn't merely come to extract an apology or settlement. She's engineered a business opportunity that will transform both companies while addressing the underlying issue. A complete overhaul of your diversity training. For starters, she responds, gesturing to a section of the proposal. But beyond that, I want my company to develop a specialized AI program for your reservation and boarding systems that flags potential bias in real time. She continues outlining her vision, her words measured and precise. The system would analyze patterns in customer treatment, identify potential instances of bias before they escalate, and provide immediate feedback to staff. Additionally, I'm proposing a partnership where Johnson International Technologies becomes your exclusive technology provider for the next 5 years, at a premium rate, of course. The proposal is masterful in its conception, addressing the discrimination issue while simultaneously creating a lucrative business opportunity for her company. It's not vengeful. It's strategic capitalism combined with social justice. Richard's eyes widen slightly at the implications as he exchanges glances with his legal counsel. This isn't just about making amends. It's a business proposition that would effectively give Maya's company significant control over the airline's technological infrastructure. In essence, she's not shutting down the airline literally. She's leveraging this incident to gain unprecedented influence over its operations. The financial commitment would be substantial, potentially reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars over the proposed contract period. One of Richard's executives, a silver-haired man with a permanent frown, leans forward. And if we decline? He asks cautiously, his tone suggesting he already suspects the answer but needs to hear it articulated. Maya smiles, a gesture that doesn't quite reach her eyes. There's no malice in her expression, only the calm confidence of someone who knows she holds all the cards. Then the press conference I've scheduled for this afternoon takes on a very different tone. She responds evenly. And the class action lawsuit my legal team is preparing, representing dozens of passengers who've reached out with similar experiences on your airline, moves forward immediately. She leans forward slightly, her voice softening not in weakness, but in apparent sincerity. But I'd rather we work together to solve the problem. It's your choice whether this becomes a public relations nightmare and legal quagmire, or a groundbreaking partnership that positions your airline as an industry leader in equitable customer service. The choice she's offering isn't really a choice at all. It's a masterclass in negotiation where she's already determined the outcome. Richard exchanges glances with his team, a silent acknowledgement passing between them that they have no real alternative. The potential damage from a class action lawsuit combined with Maya's planned press conference would devastate shareholder confidence and possibly trigger regulatory investigation. Beyond the immediate financial impact, the long-term damage to their brand could be irreparable in an era where consumers increasingly make purchasing decisions based on corporate values. What kind of timeline are you proposing for implementation? Richard asks, effectively signaling his acceptance of her terms without explicitly stating it. The question shifts the conversation from whether they'll agree to her proposal to how quickly they can implement it, a subtle but significant concession. Maya nods to her chief technology officer, who takes over explaining the technical implementation timeline. We can have the initial system analysis completed within 30 days, with phased implementation beginning 60 days after contract signing. Full deployment across all customer touchpoints within 6 months. The timeline is aggressive but achievable, designed to demonstrate urgency while remaining realistic. As the meeting progresses, the discussion shifts to specifics: contract terms, implementation strategies, training protocols, and accountability measures. Maya's legal team presents detailed performance metrics that the airline must meet, with financial penalties for failing to achieve diversity and inclusion benchmarks. Throughout the negotiation, Maya remains firm on the core elements of her proposal while showing flexibility on implementation details, another demonstration of skilled leadership that allows Richard to save face while still accomplishing her primary objectives. By the meeting's conclusion 3 hours later, the framework of an agreement has been established. Richard Anderson and his team leave with a comprehensive set of contractual obligations and a transformed understanding of their company's future direction. What began as a damage control meeting has become a fundamental realignment of their business relationship with Johnson International Technologies, and by extension, their approach to equity and inclusion. After they depart, Maya remains in the boardroom with her team, the atmosphere shifting from tense negotiation to cautious celebration. They'll try to dilute some of the accountability measures during the contract finalization, her legal counsel warns, but we've got them cornered on the core components. Maya nods, finally allowing herself a genuine smile. Schedule a follow-up with their legal team tomorrow. I want this contract finalized within the week, she directs, and prepare talking points for the press conference. We'll need to reframe it as an announcement of our partnership rather than a condemnation of their practices. As her team begins to disperse, Maya stands by the window, looking out at the city skyline. The reckoning she engineered wasn't about retribution, it was about transformation. She understood that true power isn't found in destroying systems, but in reshaping them. In turning an incident of discrimination into a catalyst for change, she demonstrated why she had risen to her position as CEO. Where others might have settled for an apology and compensation, Maya saw an opportunity to create lasting institutional impact while simultaneously advancing her company's business interests. The reckoning wasn't just about holding one airline accountable for one incident. It was about establishing a new model for how corporations can address systemic bias through technological innovation and structural change. Maya hadn't merely shut down an airline's discriminatory practices. She had effectively taken control of them, positioning herself to guide their transformation from within. It was a resolution that satisfied both her business acumen and her commitment to creating more equitable spaces for those who would come after her. The final act of Maya Johnson's story represents the culmination of her strategic vision, not merely addressing a single incident of discrimination, but fundamentally reshaping an entire corporate culture. This section demonstrates how true power lies not in destruction but in transformation, showcasing Maya's ability to convert adversity into opportunity. 6 months have passed since the confrontation at the airport gate and the subsequent boardroom negotiation. The airline's headquarters, once a monument to corporate tradition, has been subtly but significantly transformed. New digital kiosks display the company's updated commitment to equitable service. Training rooms once used for basic customer service instruction now host sophisticated bias recognition workshops. The company's previously homogeneous executive portraits have been replaced with a gallery showcasing a diverse leadership team, changes both symbolic and substantive. On this bright spring morning, the company's largest conference center has been prepared for a major press announcement. Camera crews from major networks have positioned themselves strategically throughout the room, their equipment forming a technological perimeter around a sleek podium bearing both the airline's logo and, notably, the Johnson International Technologies emblem. The dual branding is no accident. It visually represents the partnership that has fundamentally altered both companies over the past 6 months. Maya stands backstage, reviewing her notes one final time. She's dressed in a powerful cobalt blue suit, a deliberate choice that projects confidence and authority, while being distinctly different from the outfit she wore during the infamous boarding incident. Her team surrounds her, making final adjustments to her presentation and briefing her on which media outlets are present. The atmosphere is charged with anticipation. This press conference represents not just a corporate announcement, but a milestone in how American companies address issues of racial bias and discrimination. 3 minutes, Ms. Johnson, her assistant informs her as Richard Anderson approaches. The airline CEO looks markedly different from the defensive, uncomfortable man who entered Maya's boardroom 6 months ago. There's a new confidence in his bearing, not the entitlement of privilege, but the assurance of someone who has embraced meaningful change. Ready for this? Richard asks, extending his hand. Their relationship has evolved from adversarial to collaborative, though Maya has never relinquished her position of power within their partnership. She insisted on maintaining final approval over all aspects of the initiative they're announcing today, a condition Richard initially resisted but ultimately accepted. Always, Maya responds with a professional smile, shaking his hand firmly. This moment represents thousands of hours of work by both companies, countless meetings, technological innovations, policy revisions, and cultural shifts. The transformation they're about to announce isn't merely cosmetic, it's foundational. As they take the stage together, applause fills the room. The stark visual, a black woman CEO and a white male CEO standing, as equals announcing a groundbreaking initiative, is not lost on the assembled press corps. Camera shutters click rapidly, capturing what many will later describe as a paradigm shift in corporate America's approach to addressing systemic bias. Maya takes her position at the podium, her posture perfect, her expression composed but warm. The room quiets as she begins to speak, her voice resonant with authority and purpose. 6 months ago, I experienced something that countless travelers face every day. Being denied my rightful place based solely on assumptions about who I was and where I belonged. She begins, directly addressing the incident rather than skirting around it. What happened to me was unfortunate, she continues, but it created an opportunity for meaningful change. Today, this airline is leading the industry in anti-bias protocols and inclusive customer service. Behind her, a large screen displays statistics showing dramatic improvements in customer satisfaction across all demographic groups. The data is compelling. Complaints about discriminatory treatment have decreased by 78%. Overall customer satisfaction has increased by 42%. And notably, the airline stock has risen 23% since implementing the new protocols, outperforming industry averages by nearly double. Maya outlines the key components of the Equitable Skies initiative, developed by Johnson International Technologies, a comprehensive program that has completely transformed the airline's approach to customer service, hiring practices, and employee training. The AI-driven system that detects potential bias in real time has been implemented across all customer touchpoints, from booking to boarding. Every employee, from gate agents to executives, has completed intensive training in recognizing and addressing unconscious bias. Performance evaluations now include metrics on equitable treatment, with clear consequences for discriminatory behavior and rewards for inclusive excellence. This initiative isn't just about avoiding negative incidents, Maya explains, her voice conveying genuine conviction. It's about creating a culture where every traveler feels valued, respected, and welcome. It's about recognizing that diversity isn't just a moral imperative, it's good business. As she speaks, attendees can see the transformation in the airline representatives standing to the side of the stage, a noticeably more diverse group than would have been present 6 months earlier. What Maya doesn't say publicly, though many industry insiders understand, is that her company's contract with the airline has expanded beyond the original proposal, making it one of Johnson International Technologies' most lucrative partnerships. The AI system developed for bias detection has created new technological capabilities that are being adapted for other applications within the travel industry. The airline didn't shut down. It was transformed, with Maya's influence extending through every aspect of its operations. After outlining the technical and policy changes implemented, Maya introduces several individuals who have been instrumental in the transformation, including, notably, David Greenfield, the passenger who spoke up for her at the airport gate. He has joined the advisory board for the Equitable Skies initiative, bringing his perspective as both a business leader and an ally committed to challenging discrimination when he witnesses it. The press conference includes testimonials from airline employees who describe how the new training and accountability measures have changed their approach to customer service. A flight attendant shares how the AI coaching system helped her recognize patterns in how she was addressing passengers of different backgrounds. A gate agent explains how the new protocols have given staff clearer guidelines for handling difficult situations without falling back on biased assumptions. As the formal presentation concludes and reporters begin asking questions, Maya handles each inquiry with the same composed authority she demonstrated throughout the entire process. When asked if the incident that sparked this partnership still affects her personally, she responds thoughtfully, "What happened that day wasn't unique. It was simply visible. The real victory isn't that I received justice, but that we've created systems to ensure others will as well, especially those without my platform or resources." The questions eventually shift to the business impact of the partnership, and Maya smoothly outlines how both companies have benefited financially from the initiative. Johnson International Technologies has seen its stock value increase significantly as other major corporations have approached them about implementing similar systems. The airline has not only recovered from the initial negative publicity, but has positioned itself as an industry leader in inclusive customer service, a distinction that is driving customer loyalty and employee retention. As the press conference concludes and cameras flash, Richard leans over to whisper to Maya, "You know, when you made that call from the gate, I never imagined it would lead to this." There's genuine respect in his voice, an acknowledgement that her strategic vision has benefited both companies far beyond what either could have anticipated. Maya smiles, genuine this time. Sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't shutting something down, she replies quietly. It's taking control and rebuilding it better. She glances around at the airline executives who now report, in many ways, to her company. "I didn't need to shut down your airline. I just needed to own a piece of it." This exchange captures the essence of Maya's approach, recognizing that true power lies not in destruction but in transformation, not in punishment, but in reshaping systems to be more equitable. When faced with discrimination, she didn't merely seek personal vindication. She leveraged her position to create institutional change that would benefit countless others who might face similar treatment. The cameras capture their handshake, a perfect image of corporate cooperation that will appear on business publications worldwide. What they don't capture is the subtle shift in power that has occurred, a recalibration that began with one black woman refused her rightful seat and ended with her effectively controlling the systems that once sought to exclude her. As Maya leaves the stage, she's approached by a young black woman who works in the airline's marketing department. "Ms. Johnson," the woman says hesitantly, "I just wanted to thank you. Since the new policies were implemented, everything has changed. How I'm treated, how my ideas are received. It's like working at a completely different company." Maya takes a moment to truly see this young woman, recognizing in her the next generation of leadership. "What's your name?" she asks. "Zoe Williams," the young woman replies. "Well, Zoe Williams," Maya says, handing her a business card. "Send your resume to this email. Johnson International Technologies is always looking for talented professionals." This small moment, unnoticed by the press and executives, represents another aspect of Maya's approach to transformation, not just changing systems, but creating pathways for those who will come after her. As Maya exits the conference center, surrounded by her team, she reflects on the journey from that tense moment at the airport gate to this triumphant announcement. She had turned discrimination into opportunity, conflict into partnership, and exclusion into influence. The transformation wasn't just about changing one airline's policies. It was about establishing a new model for how corporations could address systemic bias while simultaneously creating business value. The story that began with a black CEO being denied her rightful place concludes not with the destruction of the system that failed her, but with her ascension to a position of power within it, remaking it in the image of equity and inclusion, while simultaneously expanding her own company's influence and profitability. It's a resolution that speaks to Maya's strategic brilliance and her understanding that true change comes not from tearing institutions down, but from transforming them from within.